Okay, good afternoon. So today I think we are at the phase of working with our project architecture. Mean to say that was the technology we use, and basically what we do today is to work on one of the Python architecture called as Flask. Okay, this is our aim today. So before getting into the architecture of Flask and how to work with the Flask architecture and how to develop an application in Flask, all those things, I just want you people to understand few things with respect to a project. If you take any project, okay, if you take any project in the world which is a software project, there are three layers which is involved. There are basically three layers which is involved. I always say this: the three layers is called as a three-tier architecture. We call it as a three-tier architecture. Okay, so what is this three-tier architecture? Okay, whenever I see a project, I'll see in three different phases. One is the front-end layer. Okay, one is a front-end layer. We call this front end as a design layer, the design layer, and the other one is a middle layer. Okay, middle layer we call it as a business layer, middle layer which is called as business layer, and the other layer which is called as backend. See, this is how you have to represent your project whenever you take. See, it is not a project what you do for your final year or you do for your internship or whatever. This follows for everywhere. This follows for all the projects in the industry. We have three layers: one is a front end layer, another is a middle layer, and another is a back end layer. Okay, this back end layer we call it as the database layer. Okay, database layer. So we have the design layer, the business layer, and the database layer. So when we call now in advanced level we call it as an MVC architecture. We call it as model, view, and controller. We call it as model, view, and controller. Okay, this is how the project is been represented. So this view, as the name says, it is a design. It is a design. Okay, and the model, as it said, is where the logic actually starts with. And this is a control layer which controls this model, view, and the database. Model, view, and the database has been controlled by the controller layer. So this advanced level of this entire architecture, which is front end, middle layer, back end, is been converted to something called as MVC. Let us understand in a simple terms what is this front end layer. See, when I design an application, let me say that I'm raising an application for web scraping. Let me say, okay, let me take an example like a Flipkart. Okay, I'll take an example of flipkart.com. So when I say flipkart.com, the Flipkart actually has three different layers. Okay, the first layer is the design layer. Okay, what's the design layer? The design layer is your HTML pages where you have your sign up, sign in, submit, and all those things, your HTML layer. Okay, this is how it has to be. So design is something where it is up to you, like how much beautify you want you can do. If you are a full stack web developer and you're concentrated to work on a very good design, then you can use some advanced technologies like Angular, React, and all those things. Then you can design a beautiful application for a front end. That is for a design perspective. There you can use something like Bootstrap, or you can use jQuery, or you can use some Ajax, or whatever possible you can do, and you can design a beautiful front end application. This comes to front end. That is, you're something like you have an item, you have the sign up, sign in, and submit, and you have some images here, and all those things is your design layer. And once when you click on sign up, you give your username and give your password and press submit, automatically that control will go to the middle layer. The control will go to the middle layer. The middle layer is a logic. For example, there's an item in the cart. You have ordered an item and the item is there in the cart. Okay, and the item needs to be dispatched, or mean to say that item needs to be ordered. Okay, you are finalizing the order and you say yes, submit. So once when you say submit, automatically all these details will be given back to the layer. It will process how much is the tax. It will ask whether it's a cash on delivery. It will add some GST and all such things. It will add for your particular delivery address, and everything will be processed. Okay, then it will give the result back to you to the front end. So this processing what we do is called as a middle layer. This has been developed with the programming languages like Python. This is developed by the Python programming languages, by Java, by C#, and all such things. Okay, and the front end is developed by the technologies called as HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and all such things. Once when you have this middle layer, the middle layer interacts with the backend layer. For example, you are given your username and the password. The username and the password you are given to the middle layer. The middle layer will take your username, will take your password. It has to validate whether it is a valid username or password, right? So where is your original username and the password? It is there in the database. It's in a database. This is a DB. So this middle layer will interact with the database again. It will take the username. For this username, what is the password? It checks. whether the username exists. If it exists, then it checks for the username's password. It will take the password here. You are given some password. It will validate. Okay, the password or username what you have given and the password and the data username what is there in the database, it will validate together. If it is correct, it will redirect to the next page, which is home dot something, related to home page. This is how every project will work. Okay, for this we follow different architecture for the different programming languages. Okay, now where do we use Python? Where do we use Python is to validate whether username and password is correct, to order an item, to select cash on delivery, or whatever it is. Any business layer, any business logic, whatever the business logic you do, that has to be there in your middle layer. The whatever the business logic you do. For example, in the banking and finance, what is the business logic? Credit, debit, transfer. You want to credit something, you have to debit transfer, or you want to add a new beneficiary, or you want to transfer your amount to some of your friend. Okay, what happens? So all those is respect to the domain. It is all with respect to business. All this will be done in the middle layer. Then what is front end? If you go to spi.in or spi.com, you'll be seeing username, password, SBI logo, and all such thing. That is the front end. And your username and the password is there in the database. This is the database layer. So you take any application for that matter, you'll be having these three layers, which this we call it as a three-tier architecture. This is a three-tier architecture. This is what we need to represent. So on what architecture project is developed, it is a three-tier architecture. There are people who say like four-tier architecture also, five-tier architecture also, where they would have been split into HTML, CSS, and in the back end, we can say something like, design layer is split into two, and such things. There are different architectures for that matter. On generic, we call it as three-tier architecture. It's also called entire architecture. It's also called entire architecture. Okay, advanced level of this entire architecture is your MVC. If you understand this entire architecture, then understanding MVC is not a big deal. You can do that. Okay, so this is what is followed with all the applications present in the industry. You can again any project for the matter, it has to be developed like that. That is, the part of HTML need to be involved, the part of Python need to be involved, and the part of database need to be involved. Let us say that I am working on a machine learning application. Let me say that I am working on a machine learning application. I'll just write this here. Okay, I'm working on an ML app. Okay, when you're working on a machine learning application, what happens? You'll take the data from the front end. Okay, the data what we take from the front end is designed from designers. Okay, those are the web developers. Okay, and I'll take all the details and I'll give it to my machine learning model. Where is the machine learning model? In the middle layer. Using what you have developed? Using Python. So you develop the machine learning model and you perform some input and you give the output. There is no database involved here because you're not extracting anything from the database after building the model. Before building the model, you need to extract the data from the database. You build the model, train the model. You will train the model with the data present in the database. Okay, you will train the model with the data present in the database. Then you give the result. Then you say model is built. The built model what you have built, that you take from input from the front end, then you give the output. Here in this phase, after the model is built, you're not interacting with the DB, you're not interacting with database. While training the model, we interact with the database. Yes, in this case I agree, you will interact with the database. After model is built, no interaction with the database. That is, the model is built using some Python. Just like that, you take any application for that matter. Let me take that you're working on a college library system. The college library system also, okay, there is some fine which has been there for the book you have returned after 10 days. Okay, the fine, where did the fine get from? It is there in the middle layer. Sorry, it takes from the date where you started and where you took the book and the number of days delay, it calculates the fine amount, it gives the response. So all that is done in the middle layer. And the front end, what your library admin will see the front end design, that is your front end. HTML. Okay, and the details of the book, everything, author, when the book was taken, what's the user ID, everything will be stored in the database. So the interaction would happen something like this. Okay, just like this, on overall it is a three-tier architecture, but depending upon the programming language, they are given the different names for the architecture. If you go to somewhere like .NET, or when you say something like working on C#, okay, working on C# kind of application, then they say, okay, we depend on MVC4. This is our user architecture. You say working on Java, then you have strings and hibernates. We have strings and hibernates. Okay, then you say that you're working on something like a PHP. Then we have something like Laravel. We have Laravel framework. Okay, or we have LAMP. Okay, LAMP architecture, Laravel framework. Okay, and similarly, when I say Python, we have something called as Flask. So this is the architecture what we maintain, or we can use Django also. So it can be done using Flask or Django. Okay, it is very familiar. Okay, when your application is completely on a web application, then you usually use Django, or else if you have web application and part of ML in the backend or something like that, then you can use Flask. It's okay. Either you can use Flask or Django, but I always prefer Flask because I am very much experienced working with Flask applications. So I always say go with the Flask application. So what is this Flask? Flask is an architecture what is followed to maintain the entire architecture. Flask is a framework, or else I can say framework. Flask is a framework which follows entire architecture. Flask is a framework which follows three-tier architecture or entire architecture. Okay, so we must be very much used to work on the Flask kind of applications. So how to work on the Flask? So how to create a file, how to link with the front end, all those things has to be understood. Okay, so in our project what we have already developed, we have developed our project using the Flask application. Either if people are working on an ML project or you're working on a web development project. Okay, so both the cases we are using Flask itself. We are using Flask, and we will understand the code once I teach this. Okay, so once when you're done with this, you'll understand how the project is being done. Down the lane, we want you to modify the details what is being given to you based on the application. Before, okay, without understanding how this Flask works, you can't modify anything. Okay, so that's the reason we will teach you Flask. Okay, how the Flask works and how to build a Flask application using Python. This is all about it. Okay, so before me going to practicals of how the Flask will look, okay, and such things, I just want to know if there are any questions still here. Any questions?
No, sir.
Good. Any questions for anyone? Ishika, Himashri, Manish, Mukshita?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Padmashri, Pratana?
No, sir.
Good. Sachin, Pooja, Rachana?
No, sir.
sir.
Okay, great. Okay, that's the case. Okay, let's go to, I'll just explain you how the Flask application would look. Okay, if this is fine, what we do now is, so whenever I say Flask architecture, what you need to understand is, there is something called as init.py. Okay, there is something called as init.py. Okay, init.py is the first file which gets called automatically whenever you learn the Flask app. I'll repeat, init.py is the first file which gets called automatically whenever you run the Flask app. Okay, so whenever you divide it, when you start doing the design, you must understand the design is of different things. For example, when I work on a Flask application, it is having something like a directory listing in terms of how do the design file looks, okay, how to interact with the database. So there are different layers for that matter. I'll be telling you the layer. Okay, we call it as a layer because it is like, every architecture what we say will be having, like, this must be the first file which has to run whenever you run the project or something like this, like that. For Flask, the first application will be init.py. Okay, so what we do is, how the architecture would look is, let me say my application name is something like app. Okay, what we do is, we have multiple files like init.py inside this app. This is a file by name init.py, and we will have something like views.py, which is basically on the design, and we have some other file, something like, okay, add.py. So these are the different Python files. When I say py, these are different Python files. Each and every py file is considered as a module. Okay, I'll repeat, each and every py file is considered as module in Python. How much ever file you want, you can build, and you can actually take the function present in add.py to view.py by importing this add inside this view. Okay, I'll be telling you how to do that. Okay, I'll be telling you today how to do that. Okay, but you must understand multiple files are there. Init.py is one file. This is an application. Overall, this is, and your application name is app. Okay, in app you have like something like init.py, you have views.py, you have add.py, and all such things. Okay, then basically I'll be showing you how to interact with this init.py, how to interact with views.py. That is, as of now you must understand the first file always gets called as init.py, and the each and every py modules is called, py files is called as modules in Python. This is the first thing what you need to understand. Let's go to practicals now. Okay, so now till now we have worked on Jupyter Notebook. Okay, till now we worked on Jupyter Notebook to understand how the Python file will work. From now on, I expect you people to work on Pycharm. Okay, I want you people to work on Pycharm. Okay, so Pycharm is an IDE basically used to work the project. Okay, internally Pycharm can be connected to cloud environment. Pycharm can be connected to Heroku and all such things. But I mean cloud environment basically. But Python can be done locally also. Pycharm can be done locally also. So I want you people to install Pycharm. Pycharm is available in two versions. One is Pycharm is available in the community version, and community version is something free. Okay, I want people to download Python community version, and the Pycharm is already is there for paid version also. Don't download that. You can just say Pycharm community download, so that you'll be getting 10.2.3. I'm not so sure about the version, but you'll be getting the most recent version, and you can install it and make it ready. Okay, so now I'll be teaching you how to create a simple project in Pycharm. Okay, so let me go to practicals. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is a project file. What I have is a Pycharm environment what we have already with us. Okay, so now what we do is, one thing is we need to go to file as automatically open your Pycharm. There appears a screen like this. First thing is you can go here and say as file. Okay, you can click on file, so it will give an option to create a new project. Okay, you can say as new project, select a new project, then it will ask for your project name. Okay, it is a bit slow because I'm working on some big data project, but please hold on. Okay, yeah, so we have create project, so it says yes, so on which location you have to store your file. It'll ask you, so I say Python project, okay, 2 or whatever it is, it's up to you. Just give a name Python project 2, then it will ask you what is the environment you need to set up. Okay, see, there is something called as environment to set up. Environment is you can run the Python file with the Conda environment. Because you're working on Anaconda framework, you can work on the Conda environment. If you say no, I don't want Conda environment, I have my own virtual environment, you can create it. So what is that virtual environment? Virtual environment is, there are like around 100, I'll repeat, there are around 100 packages. Okay, let me say, okay, so I'll just show you. See, there are like more than 90 to 100 packages what you have installed. There are more than 90 to 100 packages what you have installed. Whatever the 100 packages you have installed, everything is available in the Conda environment. But you say no, for this specific project by name Python project 2, I don't require all this 90 to 100 project. I have my own virtual environment where I have 10 packages which is involved, which is installed. I just use the 10 packages. I don't want all together. If that is the case, what you can do is you can select your own. Okay, Python. Okay, you can new environment. You can create your own virtual environment. If you select your own virtual environment, it will ask you, okay, so is that a base interpreter so and so? You want to select your interpreter, it will ask you. Okay, so I hope you people already know what is the interpreter and all such things as of now. Okay, so if you want your own virtual environment, you can create your own virtual environment and give it a name. Okay, give it a name here. Or I always suggest don't create the virtual environment because we get used to it. Okay, as of later when you're done with the projects, you'll understand how to create virtual environment, how to install the package specifically and all such things. As of now, let us just use the Conda environment. I just use the Conda environment, so everything is set up. Okay, nothing is there to create now. So it will ask you, is it the Conda environment you want to do? I say yes. Okay, I'm done with this. Then it will say, what is the interpreter you want to do? Okay, if you want, you can select the interpreter. Whatever the environment interpreter is there, I'll be using the same interpreter. I say yes. Okay, I'll just say create. Just give me a moment. Okay. Okay, so I like, you have two environments here. New environment using Conda. If you create a new environment using Conda, you can select the base Python environment, or else you can use the existing interpreter here. Existing interpreter in terms of the Python 3.7 base. Mean to say that automatically when you install Anaconda, I'll repeat, you have two options. One is creating the new environment using the Conda framework, where you can create your own virtual environment. Second option is you can select the existing interpreter which is already there, so that I don't want to take a risk to install any packages. Whatever is been installed in my Anaconda framework previously, I want to use all those packages. So we can select the existing interpreter, then it will say Python 3.7 base. Okay, the base package. You can just say create. So automatically the project would be created. I will wait because it will take some time to create the project. Okay, so I want to open in a new window. I don't want to open in this window, so I just say open in new window. It will take some time to open in the new window. Let us wait for that. Okay, so once when you create a new project, okay, what you need to be very careful is you have to be very careful about the interpreter. When you're working with the Jupyter notebook, you're not at all concerned about all these things, because the Jupyter notebook will automatically maintain the interpreter. There is a base virtual environment, but once when you say that you're working on Pycharm, you need to set up the virtual environment. Okay, you need to set the virtual environment automatically. Different project uses different virtual environment. I want to people to note this. It might be asked in interviews also. Okay, I mean recently one of our candidate, they faced this question, okay, in a Python interviews. Okay, so they directly ask you like how to set up a virtual environment. What's the use of it? If someone asks you how to set up a virtual environment and how to use it, okay, your answer must be if I set up my own virtual environment, I can add my own libraries into the environment. Okay, so that I have that flexibility. But if I select the existing Python interpreter, then I don't have the rights to delete any of the existing libraries. I want to use everything so that it will be heavily loaded. That is the reason I create my own virtual environment, so that my project will be light. Okay, but as of now we are not taking risk of creating the virtual environment. We can try it later, so just keep this in mind. Okay, and it will like I think it's taking time. Okay, so once we are done with this, you can just right click here. You can right click here, then you'll get an option to create a new file. Just a moment, I think it's building. Okay, we'll wait for a minute. Yes, okay, now you get an option here to say new. Okay, can you people see the screen, a new screen? Is that visible for you? No, now it's visible. Python project 2. Anyone,
Yes,
please respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'll create on this Python project 2. I just create a Python project 2. I right click on it. Okay. I'll right click on it and say new. Okay. I'll say new. Okay. Then I'll create a new direct Python package. So I say new Python package. Okay. I'll create a new Python package. I'll name a package as app. Okay. I'll name a package as app. Just a moment. Right click, new Python package. I'll name it as app. Done. Okay, so the Python app by name, Python package by name app would have been created here. Yes. So automatically when I create app, the init.py file will be here. I want you to understand. Okay, init.py will be the first file which gets created automatically whenever you create a package, because as I told you, this will be the first file which gets executed. Okay, so this is init.py. Okay, now I'll create. Okay, I have created with the init.py. Just a minute, hold on. Okay, so I created init.py. Now what I'll do is I'll be creating a multiple files. One is, I told you there are three things: model, view, controller, or else we can say it as front end, middle layer, back end. I'm not concerned about the back end. I'm not concerned about the database because we are not concerned about it as of now. Okay, I just want you to understand how the Flask application runs. That is front end and the middle layer, how it will interact. That is HTML in the front end, how it responds to Python. That is our scenario now. How HTML will respond to Python. That is what we need to understand. You take any project for that matter. As I told you, there are multiple things. One thing is, okay, architecture. That is whether you're working on entire architecture or you're working on MVC architecture. That is very important. If someone asks you what is the kind of architecture you are working for your Python project, you must say it was a Flask architecture. Okay, you may say it's a Flask architecture. Okay, so we have the file by name init.py which has been created for us. Okay, we know how to. I told you init.py is the first file which gets called automatically whenever a project has been created. So we have created init.py. Just a moment. Okay, now I will import the Flask. I will import the Flask here. I say from Flask. Okay, import what? Import the Flask architecture. I say import the Flask architecture. Good. Okay, if in case if you get error that Flask is not found, okay, you have two options. One is you must go to Anaconda prompt, or you can go to Anaconda prompt and you say conda install Flask, conda install Flask, or else you can go to your command prompt and say pip install Flask. Though, so the Flask would be installed automatically. Okay, if you want, I can show you. I'll go to file here, then I say settings. I go to settings here. I go to file settings. Then you have a project by name Python project. Is it visible, everyone? The settings?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
fine. So you go to Python project here, then you'll be selecting the Python interpreter. Okay, so when you go to Python interpreter, it will show you Python 3.7 base. Here the package what I'm speaking about, the Flask, is being present here. So it is present here. Okay, it will be present here. So now you can install the new package. If it says some error that part of the package is not found, you have a plus mark over here. You can see, just press on the plus mark and say install, and you can type the name of the package. It will be connected to the internet. It has to be connected to the internet, and the project and the package will be installed. See, I have so many packages installed in my base Conda environment. Here somewhere there will be Flask. See, here there's a Flask, which is version 1.1.2. So I don't have worries now, because Flask, if in case for you people, if you get an error, okay, then you can just go here, click on plus mark here and say install, type on Flask. So the Flask will be installed automatically. Okay, so in my case, no worries, because it's already been installed. So I've installed from Flask, import Flask. So Flask environment is ready for me because Flask package is there. Now what I want to do is I say app is equal to Flask, then I say underscore name. Yes. Okay, so what is this? I am creating an object of Flask. I'll repeat, I am creating an object of Flask, okay, for this particular class. Name double underscore name mean to say for this particular project. Okay, for this particular project, I am creating Flask underscore name, and I'm giving a reference as app. Okay, I'm giving a reference here as app. So I'm creating Flask underscore name, and I'm giving a reference as app. Good. Okay, so now the object name, if I want to refer this project, I have to give it as app. Second thing what I do now is I'll create one more folder by name template. I'll repeat, I create one more folder by name template. I create a new directory. It is not a Python directory, it's just a normal directory. I create something called as templates. Okay, understand, whatever the design file in terms of HTMLs, whatever the HTML you're trying to organize, all the HTML files has to be there inside the templates folder. I repeat, all the HTML files has to be there inside the templates folder. So I right click here and I say new. Okay, I say new, then I'll create a HTML file. It will ask you whether HTML4, HTML5. I'm very much fine with HTML5. I just give HTML5. I'll give it a name. I'll just say it as index.html. Okay, I just give it a name as index. Okay, I'll just give as index and I say okay. So this is index.html. Here is a simple HTML. I'm not good at designing. Okay, because I have a front-end designers who can do it. Okay, but what if you want to just check, what you can do is I just say okay, test page or something like this. Okay, then I create an header. I create an header by name h5. Okay, or h1. Then I say something like index page. Okay, welcome to Flask. I just say welcome to Flask app. I just type a message, welcome to Flask app. Okay, so this is my index.html. This is ready. Okay, now we created two things. One is the app folder. Inside the app folder, app package. Inside the app package, init.py was automatically created. If you want, you can take down. Okay, I'm explaining you in the most simpler way. Okay, I want people to take down. If you have any concerns, you must ask me. Okay, so I've created one of the package by name app. In that init.py automatically got created. Inside init.py, I'm creating a Flask application. An object is app. Okay, then I created a folder by name templates. Inside the templates folder, I created a design page by name index.html. Okay, now my concern is I'll be creating one more file which is called as view. Okay, I'll create something like as views. Okay, I created a Python file by name views. Okay, what is this views? Okay, views is something where you will actually work for how to divert your page when request comes from the front end. I told you we have model view controller. When something comes a request from the front end, how to take it. Okay, Pratik, if you have any questions, I'll come to you. Okay, I want you to wait for some time. Okay, I'll just complete it so that I can take your questions. So now I think like we have in a views page, what we do now is we will actually try to take the request from the front end, process it in views. I'll repeat, you take the request from the front end and process it in views. Okay, so what you mean to say that, so I have some request where user will say something like I need an index page. So I need the index page. So I'll say, okay, then you have to, I'll tell you where to go. That is, for example, I'll import from, okay, from the app, okay, import what? Import, okay, import what you want to import. There's a package in the app. In the app, you can import something like app from app, import app. Just a moment. From app, import app. I'll just say this. I'll tell you what is this. I'll tell you what is this. See, inside this init.py, you have created a Flask object that I'm importing it. That is, from the app, I'm importing from the app. In the app, this init.py is the own file. I'm importing this app. So I say from app, capital app, I'm importing this small app. That's what it means to say. From app, import app. Is showing some error. Unused import. Okay, that's okay. Fine. So now I've used the from app, import app is done. So next what has to be done? I have to create from Flask import render template. Just a moment. Hold on. Okay. Okay. So now I'll just go to from Flask return render template. I just say from Flask. Okay. Return render underscore template. Okay, from Flask from Flask import render template. I'll just copy paste here. Sorry, not return, it is like import. Okay, I just say from Flask import return template. Okay, so what is this render template? I'll be telling you, don't worry, hold on. Okay, so now what I do is I just give this a simple code here. I just say app.root def index return template index.html, just simple. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, I'll just do this and I go to this init.py. Inside this init.py, I will import this views. Okay, views is there here. So I just say something like from app import views. Okay, import views. Don't worry, you will understand this. I want you people to try it on your own. It's not only for your project perspective or anything. It is really very useful. I want you people to practice it on your own. Okay, so that you'll understand. So I say from app import views. Okay, I'm done with this. I'll show you how this would work. It is such a beautiful thing. Okay, so just a moment. Just hold on. Okay, I think I'm done. Fine. So now I'm just created. Now you must understand. I have created one file by name index.html, and I've created one more file by name views.py. I created one more. I mean, there's something init.py. Init.py is the first file which gets created. Okay. In that, I have created an object of Flask, and I've imported the views also here. Then I've created index.html with respect to design, and I've created views.py. Okay, views.py is used to access the request from the front end. So here I have given at app.root /. What is this? Whenever the Flask app runs, the first request will always come to the index, that is root. Okay, the first request come here. So irrespective of anything, first it will look for the root. In the root, I am telling something like return render template index.html. I say whenever the request come from the Flask application, redirect me to index.html. That is, it will redirect to this index.html. The catch point here is, okay, we must do at app. What is this at app? At app is the decorator. We call it as a decorator. Decorator in terms of I created a reference of app, right? I'm just redirecting. I'm rerouting that. Whenever there is the first request, which is slash is the first request. When the first request is there, call this function. Which function? The index function. So can I change this function to something else? It's up to you. No worries. Okay, I just created as index function. Then I say return render template index.html. So it will be redirecting to index.html file. It will be coming here. Now I'll just run this code so that you'll understand how this would work. Okay, I just run this code. App. Let me go here. Okay, and yeah, sorry, I have to created one more Python file by name app. I'll tell you what is this. Okay, sorry. Yes, delete. I'll create one more file by name app.py. It's the first file which I will be running here. I'll create something like app. This app got created. Okay, so we have created something like app.py. So we have app.py. Inside app.py, I'm saying something like this. I'm writing a code. The code is, okay, where is my code? App.py. So hold on. Okay, inside app.py, I'm writing this code. I say from app import app, from capital A, app import app. I say if name equal to main. Always the first function would be the main function. If name equal to main, I say app.run. When I say app.run, the app.run will give the control to this init.py. Okay, I'll run this code and I'll re-explain how it works. I'll just run so that you'll get some confidence how to run this. I'll just run and I say app. We will see how it goes. Yes, so we're getting the Flask is running on the server. The Flask application is running on the folder. I just click on this. Yes, see, it says welcome to Flask app. Simple. Okay, because I just given indexes automatically whenever the Flask app runs, automatically it gets redirected to this welcome to Flask app. Where is this welcome to Flask app? Where this welcome to Flask app is? I had given that I had to be redirected. Where to redirect? I said in my init.py I created an object. Okay, and I have imported app.py. I run the app.py. I said app to run. When I said app to run, it gave the control to init.py. Here I have import views. So it is giving the control to views. The views has taken the control and it has given something like slash, mean to say the root page. The root page is, it says return render template index.html. What is index.html? It has given a control here. Then it says welcome to Flask app. This is how it is. Okay.